We on. You see, that's not. It wasn't on air. Now we're back. Yes, sir.
I would guess C.
C. Why? No, don't press again. Yeah.
Anna is Brazil.
Yeah.
She's working at Brussels, and if you take her to Bolivia, she'll be a third continent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's wrong, but I think that she would be considered a parent country national because she's a citizen of the nation Brazil, in which the parent company is headquartered, also called, I think I'm wrong.
Struggles. Oh, you think your own answer is wrong? Oh. Oh, okay. Now that clarifies it. Okay. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
I think she's a host country national because she resides from the same place that the subsidiary is at. Because according to the definition of a host country national, it's an employee or citizen of the nation in which the subsidiary is operating, of which she is. She's from South America. Brazil is from South America.
No, but we're speaking of countries. So I'm referring to the subsidiary in Bolivia. So Brazil is one country and Bolivia is another country altogether. Do you want to revise your answer or are you still?
No, I'll just keep quiet.
You'll keep quiet. Okay. So, yes, sir.
I would say that she's
Okay, switch it off. Press that. Yeah. Just speak very loud.
I would say that she's a third country national going to Bolivia. Since she's from Brazil, she's working in Belgium with the company is. She would be a host country national there.
Yeah.
Now, with her going to Bolivia and they having a plant there, she would be a third country national since she's not from the headquarter country and neither she's working in the host country, which is then Brazil.
Yeah.
If she had to work in Brazil, she would be the host country national.
Okay.
Since the headquarters are in Belgium.
Okay. Let's put this into this case study. So, a parent country national is someone from the same country of headquarters. So in this case, it would have been sending a Belgian person to Bolivia, right? Then a host country national is someone from the host country where the subsidiary is located. So Anna would have to be Bolivian to be a host country national. Now, she's not from Belgium, not from Bolivia. She's from a third country. That makes her a third country national. So she's not from the country of headquarters. Now we're analyzing the Bolivian subsidiary. She's not from Bolivia, and she's from neither country. So that makes her a third country national. Is that clear to everyone? Is it? That's awesome. Right. So that would be the explanation. You can just say she's Brazilian. The firm she works for is headquartered in Belgium. And you could have added, and obviously it's already in the question, the subsidiary we're talking about is in Bolivia. The last question, 12 marks. Now consider Struvel's Chemicals, Ana Lobato's employer. 1. Based on the case study, which staffing policy is this firm using? 1 mark. Motivate your answer with facts from the case study. And then in the second one, I basically wanted you to tell me why the other ones are excluded. So then motivate why the other staffing policies are not applicable to this firm. 1 mark for each staffing policy you remember. I wanted to see it written. And 2 marks for related explanation of why not applicable. So let's identify the staffing policy and then motivate why the other ones are not applicable. I must say it's very tricky. I don't even know if I got it right. But it's just to practice our theory. Of course I got it right. Yes, sir.
I would say she's geocentric staffing policy.
Okay, why?
Because the company deploys people that are more qualified for the job, irrespective of where they come from. So they use elect country nationals or home country nationals.
And do you have any proof from the case study that that's the case? Like concretely with names, surnames, ages, and gender of people deployed? No, okay, I'm just kidding, but do you know? I mean, is Anna an example? Are there any other managers mentioned that give you an impression that this is the case, if you remember?
I can't remember the case study very well now.
Okay, no.
I can remember that there was another guy who wanted to deploy at Bolivia that she was negotiating with because at operations because she qualifies them.
Yeah, so someone wants to send her to Bolivia. Okay. Yes.
It's just an example where we were saying that they took Anna from Brazil because she was good at her job as an engineer. So that's why it's in that staffing policy geocentric.
Yes, sir.
A more concrete example, I think, to back up what you're saying, is the fact that you have to work in two countries, and be deployed into before they qualify for senior management. So there's a sort of imposed glass ceiling where they have to have work in two countries, which is geocentric.
Okay, so your colleague is saying another point to motivate this answer is that the case study mentions you have to work in two countries. There is an implicit rule, you have to work in two foreign countries before you get promoted, right? So, however, that could have been, it doesn't say which country. If it's a country in the same region, we can only guess, but it's something you can add. But I would say this alone wouldn't be enough to guess the geocentric, because it could have been just, okay, if you're from Europe, in two countries, but in Europe. That's not said. But it does add to, yes?
I went for regiocentric.
Regiocentric.
Because Brazil is next to, Bolivia is next to Brazil, but it's not stated there. But they also refer to it as the South American division, not the Brazil division and Bolivian division.
They refer to it as the, oh, I see.
As the South American
Division. But they also mention, okay, your colleague is saying regiocentric. It seems, are you understanding that Bolivia is the only subsidiary in South America?
They don't call it the one, the Brazilian division and the Bolivian division separated with the Brazilian one. They just call it as the South American.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, I didn't pick it up, but your colleague is saying it seems that if there is one South American division with probably different locations, maybe, I don't know, manufacturing is in Brazil and procurement in Argentina, I'm not sure. If that were the case, then it would be regiocentric, because her moving around this subsidiary spanning many countries still makes her be in the same place, kind of thing. I don't know, it's the first time I picked that up. Could be. I'll have to read again. But it seems to me that there are different, that each consignment in each country is treated as a separate, and there's a different manager. But okay, I can't remember now. All right, if that were the case, then okay, so this could be, and then it will make it maybe regiocentric. But I don't think so. Okay, while I check, will you? At the same time, now she's in Brussels, not to be an international manager, but she's on an expat assignment. So that will rule out regiocentric. Even if we had one subsidiary in South America, she's moved out of the region for an expat assignment. That makes it look like the best person you chosen for the job. So, and we talked about some of them. Now, why wouldn't, okay, let me ask you about, we spoke about regiocentric, it doesn't seem so. Geocentric, it could be. Anyone to tell me why it's not ethnocentric and polycentric? And then we're done. Ethnocentric, is it ethnocentric? No. Why not? Sorry? Yeah.
The ethnocentric stuff places is from the home country.
Yes.
And it's not from the home country.
Okay. Well, which is the home country? Belgium. All right. So in this case, Belgium is the country of the parent organization. Ethnocentric staffing policy will send Belgians only to expat assignments, and Anna is not Belgian. Polycentric. Is it polycentric? It's not, because it talks about she was in Argentina, she may go to Bolivia, and she's not from those countries. So polycentric uses people from the host country only. Right, so it's geocentric because they use, it seems there is evidence that they use the best person for the job, irrespective of their origin, geographical origin. And then we motivated why the other three are not the case. So, do you understand the staffing policies now with a bit of practice? Or do you still have some doubts? You don't? So what I've got, let's see, all right, some guidelines in general. So what I've got lined up for you is some answers to the typical emails I get, just about broad approaches to studying. Then, just for the second part of the module, I looked through the courses in each chapter, but perhaps I can spare you that because this will be uploaded. But it's just to say, okay, chapter 15, these are the main things that I want to know, right? Doesn't mean you have to ignore everything else, but those topics bear many marks, more marks than other stuff. And then integration of competitive strategy, organizational structure, and staffing policy. So let me give you the guidelines. I will jump through those core topics because you'll get them on ClickUp today. I think that's good enough, unless you have a question. And I'll jump to the integration of those concepts. Are you satisfied? Okay. So, I'd say, how do you go about studying and what should I study? Well, study the stuff that I've covered in the lectures and in the tutorials. It doesn't mean with the same level of depth I must just browse over something because it's not suitable for a lecture. It would make it even more boring. So in that case, you go to the textbook and you fill in the gaps. But if I ignore something completely, like in the HR chapter, the training of expats, we didn't look at it, then I won't ask about it. You can read it for your own knowledge because this is very interesting to you and all of that. Use the tutorials. So there's a reason in the tutorials we ask certain questions and we show you how to answer them. So it's not so much to memorize, but it's to learn what kind of answer I expect as well structured. And when it comes to the application questions, you really need to understand the theory. So you can't apply, as you've seen, if you don't know what a parent country national is, what the ethnocentric staffing policy is about. So you have to not just cram and learn how to put things in a table, because when it comes to application, then you won't get any marks for restating the definition. Yeah. Then, as I said, let me just jump to. Yeah, so someone asked, quite a few, asked, all right, what are you going to ask us to integrate, and how do we integrate? Well, there's only 3 things that really span the chapters, and those are the international competitive strategies, the organizational structure, and the staffing policies. All 3 quite a big bulk of knowledge. So, you know, the exam is your final assessment, and you're studying all the chapters, so why not integrate these beautiful concepts? Right, so how do we integrate? Well, it's to understand what do they have in common. One thing they have in common, and you've seen today, we did a few integration questions, is to understand, okay, is there any underlining approach or characteristic that they have in common? Therefore, I can link the thread and just choose the right strategy, organizational structure, and staffing policy. So one thing they have in common is the pressures, pressure to reduce cost, pressure for local adaptation, and also in some cases you can have a look at the type of products. So think about what kind of product or service am I looking at? Does it fit well with what strategy and which organizational structure? So how do these integration questions work? So usually I would ask you to answer about the international strategy or the organizational structure or the staffing policy in full. So the first question would be a full answer on one of these 3. So if the case study is about the staffing policy, I'd ask you about that. Then comes a question like, okay, and then which organizational structure would be best in line with this, and which staffing policy? So the first one, you'll have to give a full answer to the question, and then you integrate. For example, for international competitive strategies, a full answer, as you know, includes the name of the strategy, what it's about, the description, what pressures we have, the nature of the product or service, which activities are centralized, decentralized, the source of the competitive advantage, and the disadvantages. Then if I ask you which organizational structure is best suited, then it'll be enough to just say it'll be this one because of we have the same pressures or the type of product, so you must find the link, and then you just give a brief description and maybe the disadvantages. But you just answer what I ask you. I might not ask you again, okay, now give me a full-on explanation of this organizational structure. All right, and then comes so first you'll be asked about one of these in full, and then comes the integration, which is briefer usually. So you can really, I could start from any of the 3. Today I thought let's enter the integration question through the competitive strategies, and then we're going to match the structures and the staffing policy. Nothing new, we've done it already, but now for the first time we do it all 3 together. Right, so sorry. Okay, so for example, the home replication strategy, you will give an explanation, you will explain the international competitive strategy in full, if asked for it, then you're going to think about the link or the key. So how is cost pressure? We know it's low. How is adaptation, pressure for local adaptation is low. So then with that in mind, you can also, I didn't put it here, but you can think about the type of products. So with the home replication strategy, you're going to sell the same product